Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. My guest today is Alan Dunstan, Chairman of the Board of Madison County, Illinois. Madison County is organized under the township form of county government. Mr. Dunstan was the first chairman to be elected at large by the voters of Madison County. Before that, chairmen were elected by the board itself. The chairman is the chief executive officer of county government and is responsible for overseeing the daily operations of county departments and coordinating management with other countywide office holders. Mr. Dunstan appoints all the department heads who manage county offices not under the control of a countywide elected office holder. He presides over the meetings of the county board and appoints board members to serve on the standing committees. The chairman of each committee regularly reports to the board chairman and to the full board on the operations of their respective departments. We're pleased to have with us today the chairman of the Board of Madison County, Illinois, Alan Dunstan.
Well, thanks for having me, Lee.
Welcome. It's actually, I was shocked to find that it had been since 2012.
Wow. Yeah, that's been a long time.
But before that, you'd been with us quite a bit. I think
Sure.
Something like 8 times.
I believe so.
So
We'll have to
well,
keep it
but
up.
it's good to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate
out.
for having me.
There are so many things going on in Illinois right now, but county governments, and especially Madison County government, is in a different place than the state of Illinois. As I understand it, you don't have any debts?
This year, all our debts are paid for, so after this year, we are completely debt-free. And we're probably, out of 102 counties in Illinois, I would assume there's very few that can make that statement.
So how does a government in Illinois wind up performing all the functions of government and then still be debt-free?
Well, I think we have a good team. The other elected officials, in Madison County, we have 19 Democrats, 10 Republicans on the board. For the most part, we work very well together. We make good decisions. For example, we got hit by the recession just like anyone else did back in 2008. And in 2008, when that hit, we have 200 less employees today. We had to make the cuts. We had to trim the budgets. We have our budget level today is like it was 6 years ago. We're just now catching up. So we made some very, very tough decisions that have put us in the position we're in today. These are positions that I think the state of Illinois should have been doing in the same amount of time. Back when the recession hit, they should have been making cuts too. They didn't do that, and it's actually, I think they're paying for it today.
Well, the state of Illinois, the pension issue, I guess, is the biggest issue. That's the real killer for the state of Illinois.
That is correct.
Now, you guys pay pension too, don't you?
That is correct.
So what's the difference between what you're doing in terms of pension and what the state's doing in terms of pension, and the outcome is so different?
Okay. IMRF is called the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. Is actually not connected to the state government. Our pensions are about 90. Last time I heard is about 97% funded, whereas the state of Illinois pension is about 30% funded. The difference being is local government doesn't have a choice, and municipalities don't have a choice. They have to pay in their matching share each and every year. Illinois kept kicking the can down the road and borrowing money from the IMRF or from their retirement system to do other things. In county government and municipalities, you cannot do that. So we kept up with the payments. And what that means, if you have a 97% funded pension, if you stop the pension funded today, just stopped it, and you were supposed to receive $1,000 a year in pensions, you would receive $970. In the state of Illinois, if you received a $1,000 pension, 30% funded, you get about $300. So there's a big difference in the pension systems. Mm-hmm. And we're not connected to the state of Illinois.
Mm-hmm. So to put the worst possible spin on the state, they've actually been stealing. They've been stealing from the pension. You said that they were moving money and using money, borrowing money from their pension funds,
What they
and at the same time not even putting in as much of their portion that they're supposed to be putting in.
And let me restate that. I think what they did is not put in what they should have been putting in, to me, which is the same thing as borrowing. When they did not put money into the pension system and used it for other items, they were not paying their fair share. What's happened is it's put it in a position that it's in today. And it's, it's a big, a multi-billion-dollar problem that the state of Illinois is facing today.
Right, and well, in the old days when there was interest being paid, the more money you put in, the more interest that it would earn. In this day and age, there's not much interest that's being paid.
Well, you have to remember too, when the recession hit, those monies are invested in the stock market. When the recession hit and the stock market went back, pretty far down, that affected IMRF, affected all the pension systems. IMRF is just where it's at today. It took them a little while to build it back up, but we are very healthy.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's a good idea, that pension money should be invested in other companies as opposed to put into the bank?
I'm not a financial advisor.
No, I'm just asking you
I could just tell you,
as a guy that's had to deal with this for the last 6 years.
Yeah, and I do a lot of investments in that myself. But you just don't make enough money in the bank system. Right now you're lucky to get 1 or 2% interest, and the inflation is pretty low too at this time. But to really, for our long-term goals, I think you have to invest in equities. Mm-hmm. But you're talking long-term. You have to be able to do that for 10 to 15 years out to make money. And overall, that's where you make the additional money that's necessary.
Mm-hmm. This brings us, unfortunately, to another issue, and I only want to cover this briefly, but there was an issue about Madison County's money being invested in some way that was not prescribed by law, and it caused some problems. Would you care, from your perspective, because it has been discussed endlessly in the press, from your perspective, what happened there and what the problem was and how it's been corrected?
All the money that was invested in the county, to my knowledge, has always been invested with AAA bonds, have been backed by the federal government, so we didn't have that problem. They had a 10-year policy, which is it's just an in-house policy that you're supposed to keep within a 10-year policy, and we had
where it matures within 10 years.
Within 10 years, and we had a treasurer that bought items that went over the 10-year period. Mm-hmm. The thing was that the person that did that purchasing was a person that's very knowledgeable, and he bought all those knowing that they would not last 10 years. Well, he should have stated that in a policy. Well, the current treasurer sold the bonds at about a $300,000 loss. We lost about $700,000–800,000 in interest. We ended up going to court. Cost us about well over $200,000 in legal fees, and he won an award for $300,000. But for him to get that $300,000, we lost over $1 million in taxpayers' money. Currently, a lot of our investments are invested in funds that are not making, they're making like 0.21% interest, 0.23, I think is the average. You can go out and open up a savings account yourself at a bank and make 0.25, 0.025 I should say, and he's making 0.023. So I think our investments should be making a lot more money than what they are making, but that's not my job, that's the treasurer's job.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying. Nowadays, my subdivision has a money market fund. I think we've got like $11,600 in it. And I believe for the entirety of 2014, we earned $13.65.
Yes. You have to have, safety is important when you invest taxpayers' money. I mean, it's extremely important. But you can go out over, you can go 5 years out in a CD today and still make like 1.7% interest, last I saw. So we like to see the investments done over a longer period of time. And the reason we have to invest monies out that long is people don't realize we have a fund balance, a reserve. But for example, we're not like the state of Illinois. When we build a highway project, and let's say it's a $10 million project, we can't go out and bond that project. We have to have all the money up front to do it. And so we have to save.
Why is that you can't bond it?
In state of Illinois, the counties do not have the authority to go out and get bonds. And
so you have to save up.
You have to save up, and you have to have all the money up front to make that expenditure.
I see. And that, I was actually going to start moving towards infrastructure in Madison County, roads being, I guess, one of the most expensive pieces of infrastructure.
Yes.
As county board chairman, do you have like direct say over the roads, the department head who handles Madison County highways?
We have a committee that works on that. It's got a 7-member highway committee. I do, of course, get involved once in a while with that committee, but I pretty much let the committees do their work. And I think we have pretty good infrastructure. We have a couple of issues that we are trying to work out now. For example, 270, we're trying to work with the federal government and state. Illinois State, we just met with IDOT about getting 270 expanded to 6 lanes, you know, and then also get a new bridge over Mississippi River Bridge over 270, which is needed. So there's a lot of issues that we're looking at now, even today, on
Didn't they
infrastructure.
just build, or aren't they in the process of building a bridge?
That
Or was that at the,
was at the
canal?
That was the canal.
You're talking about at the Mississippi,
at the
where
Mississippi
it
River.
meets Missouri.
That is correct. And we like to see that as a 6th lane. We like to see 6 lanes going there. And I think that's the next major project that this area has to have.
Mm-hmm. And what did IDOT indicate was going to happen here? I mean, is it anywhere on the radar, or is that like, no way?
No, it's definitely on IDOT's radar. They are interested in it. They think it's a necessary thing that they have to do. They're doing studies on it now as we speak, engineering work. So it is something sometime in the future. But you know how things work. It's going to take. That's going to be, 10 years probably. Down the line before you actually see that bridge being done. And and it's very costly. And they don't have earmarks in Washington D.C. like they used to have.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know if you know the name Dale Klor or not. He used to be an IDOT area director. And he's the one that first started working on the new Mississippi River Bridge.
Yes.
In 1991, I believe it was.
Okay. It takes a long time.
And I think the bridge opened in 2014.
It takes a very long time.
Yeah, so hopefully it won't be quite so long for the replacement of the, because that's already an old bridge. That was built in 1960-ish?
It's pretty old. I'm not sure when it was built. But the new bridge that we have going into St. Louis, the new 70 bridge, has done a tremendous job. Stan Museral's Veterans Bridge. Very good bridge. And, people didn't realize that there was 3 interstates. We were one of 2 areas in this nation that had 3 interstates crossing the river. Now they split one off, which I think is very productive. And I've been over to St. Louis quite a few times, of course. You still have a little backup, but nothing like it used to be.
Yeah. And what other infrastructure issues is Madison County working on?
We have a lot of things with economic development that, Madison County is centrally located, and I think our future is logistics. And within 750 miles of Madison County, 50% of the United States population lives here. It lives within the area. Mm-hmm. And so we're very interested in the interstate system, but not only the interstate system, we're looking at the barge traffic, we're looking at air, and we're looking at freight. And high-speed rail is a big issue that's going on from St. Louis to Chicago, something that we're very much interested in also. So there's so many things going in the package. And another thing too that the Madison County is involved right now is there's a freight study being done by the Leadership Council, by the East-West Gateway. And what the freight study is to figure out, how to make this more of a logistics area, not only for bringing freight in, but to also have a product that can be sent back out someplace else. So there's a lot of things going on. I think the Madison County, St. Clair County, Monroe County, I think is going to be the future of the St. Louis metropolitan area. I think you're going to see a lot of things move east, and we have to be prepared for that.
Well, certainly Madison County has a lot more open space close to the river than over on the Missouri side, don't you?
I believe we do. And I think all that's very good land, and I think it's prime for industry, clean air industry. I think it's going to be good for, we're looking for manufacturing coming back to the area, which we're seeing that happening a little bit as we speak. And I can tell you that right now we're in the, talking to 2 big warehouses. They're looking at locating in Madison County, and which would bring well over 1 million square foot under roof for warehousing, for distribution. So there's a lot of things going on.
Is that in the area where like Dial and Hershey, and I think that's 270, 111 area?
Yes, it's down in that area, yes.
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent, When they first started that, everybody was like, "Oh my goodness, it's in a floodplain, and look out, it's a terrible look." And yet, it seems to have worked out pretty well.
It has. In fact, is actually the way they build those in, they have to hold the water back, so it actually has helped the water situation. Two things that hit us back in 2008 is we had the levy issue that came up, which we were in a process maybe where we were going to be decertified. That's all being worked out. I think we'll have those certified to the 100-year level by the end of this year and beginning of next year. And then the economy hit us, the recession. And the recession, the economy I think is getting a little bit better. And having those two things together at this time, Madison County is in the process of hiring an economic development director. We're very much interested in economic development in the county. And I think, once again, the future of the St. Louis area is on this side of the river. And I think you're going to see a lot of things pop down there. And a lot of things in the hopper that I'm aware of that I'm not allowed to speak about yet. But there's a lot of things that are going to go on. I think people are going to be impressed.
I'm blanking on the name of the gentleman who runs the Port District.
Dennis Wilsmeyer.
Wilsmeyer, yes, he sat right there, a couple of times sat right there in that chair, and we talked about this plan that he was contemplating and was hoping, and you sound like you're now, the county is now becoming more involved in that. But as I understand, the plan is the Chinese are building an expanded Panama Canal.
Yes.
And that when more and more freight comes through there, they're hoping to, instead of have it go to the East Coast, they want to bring it to New Orleans and then barge up the Mississippi, and hoping that St. Louis becomes the jumping off point for distribution, which is what you were talking about, this huge population within 750 miles, rather than trucking it in. I got this essentially correct?
That is correct. And Dennis Wilsmeyer has done a tremendous job. Before that, we had Bob Wider down at the American Central Port. And if you remember about that base, that used to be the Melvin Price base. And then through the BRAC, it was closed down, became a private venture. And that is just an unbelievable thing what Dennis Wilsmeyer has been doing down there, and Bob Wider before him. But that's just one aspect of it. And you look at our area, once again, you have rail, you have the river. By the way, this river going all the way up to Madison County is the first time that the farthest one north you have area, harbor, without a lock.
Right, that's right. The first lock is just north of the old Mel Price Center, or the America's
Central Port.
America's Central Port.
And plus we have a foreign trade zone there. I mean, it's just tremendous.
Now, what's the value of a foreign trade center for anybody, or for Madison County in particular?
Well, I think what that allows is that the trade to come all the way up there before it gets inspected. And I believe that's what it works out with. And it's just I'm not familiar with all the legal things of it, but it's very impressive to have that. And it's also shared with the airport in St. Clair County. So you're going to see a lot more come into our area, we believe.
Mm-hmm. And when you were talking about the rail and the airplane, and especially the distribution by truck,
yes.
So the improvements to Illinois Route 3 have probably begun to pay off now too.
They have, and in fact, one thing that really helped the American Central Port is when we did the McKinley Bridge, and I was surprised at the traffic that comes across that bridge to the American Central Port. And so that's been very productive. That whole area, a lot of things, there's a lot of pieces that come together. It's like a jigsaw puzzle to a certain extent. But if we keep doing all that together, and the idea with a freight study is not just to look at what Dennis Wilsmeyer was saying there, but to look at the interstate system, to look at the rails, to look at the air, all different aspects on how you can bring freight into the St. Louis area and freight out. And there's no other county except, for Madison County, we're more, because of what we have down there with Dow and Hershey and a few other areas down there, and the distribution, we could literally be the distribution capital of the United States if we play our cards right.
Are we playing our cards right?
I think we are. I think we're moving in the right direction. We got all the players. The freight study, Dennis Wilsmeyer is a member of that. We have every aspect of travel. We got a rail. We got anyone is on that freight study and coming up, and we're actually in a process now East-West Gateway they're interviewing people now for a freight specialist. It's going to be a full-time person. It's going to be working under the in Missouri under the Madison County Metrolink, Metro Board, and so we're moving in the right direction. And I think that person's going to bring they're going to hire a very good professional. When that person comes in, he's going to help us put it all together.
You mentioned the levies. Now that was an issue, a big issue a number of years ago, as you said, when the federal government came in and basically threatened to change the insurance status of all the homes and businesses within the floodplain.
That is correct.
What did you have to do in order to avoid that? And you were saying that you think you're at the end of that process.
First off, if there's any success story, that's a success story. 156,000 people live below the bluffs. 86,000 jobs are there. The money that comes in for the industry and that is just unbelievable. Basically, what would have happened if the levees would be decertified, you would have had to buy flood insurance in a flood zone. It would have been very high.
Much higher cost insurance.
Extremely high. It would have caused a lot of hardship. I think it would have businesses relocate. You wouldn't be able to develop anything unless you put it up on stilts. There's a lot of issues that went on. We got together with Monroe, St. Clair, and Madison County. We did a quarter-cent sales tax with the help of both Senator Frank Watson, who was a Republican, Senator Bill Hayne, who was a Democrat, been very, very good in that. Dan Beiser was a state representative that was very helpful. This was a success story. We took the quarter-cent sales tax. We've been having meetings. We are now in the construction stage where we're just now letting out contracts. We should have it up to the 100-year level. By the end of the year.
What does that mean, that 100-year level, and then you mentioned 500-year level?
Yeah,
what does that mean, and what's the difference?
A 100-year level means that it's like a 100-year event, like you might have water rise that high one time. We've had two events in the past. One was a
93
and 95. One was a 350 and one was a 300-year level. And that doesn't mean, at a 100-year level, we will still probably be able to handle a 300, because we would do what we call flood fighting in that. But to get to 100-year level means like it should happen once every 100 years. Now, after we do all this work, we think right now we have about $98 million left in the pot. That is going to go a long ways because we're not going to stop at the 100-year level. Our goal is to get to the 500-year level. We ultimately, our goal is to be at the 500-year level. And
so in other words, to protect all these homeowners, all these businesses, as the river rises to really historic levels.
Yes. And we
hopefully that doesn't happen.
We hope it does not happen, but we want to be prepared. And I think the residents, once again, we've had a good team working on this. It's a success story. I think by the end of this year, beginning next year, we'll be at the 100-year level. But once again, we're not stopping. And we want to get to the 500-year level. The 100-year level keeps you from buying the flood insurance. And I still think that people living down that area should have insurance, but it's a lower cost now. You should still look at having the insurance just in case, but hopefully we'll get to the 500-year level.
And you've had some pretty good guys that have been organizing that levee reconstruction. Who is in charge right now?
It started out that the main person that started out was Les Sturman.
Right.
And Les
he's been here several times, and I've not met the new guy.
Les was just tremendous. And then Chuck.
Then he retired on you.
He retired. And Chuck, the guy that's handling it now, came from more of a construction background. So, and we have a board, and the board is made up of 3 members of each county, and they're all professional. So we've been very good in that. But Chuck's been doing a good job of bringing it up on the construction stage. And that's what we're working at right now.
And that's going to be, well, not finished up because you said you want to go further.
We want to get to the 500-year level.
As far has the federal government or the folks who were making the threats that they were going to increase insurance rates, have they been satisfied yet or not, or there's still threats of changing the map?
We're not taking anything for granted. I think there's still a process going on with FEMA. But I think they know what we're doing locally. And to my knowledge, of all the areas that are, this is not just happening in our area, this is happening all over the nation. I think we're farther along than most areas because we were able to raise the local money, the local share, and we've been able to go this far. I don't think other areas have been able to do that.
Let's just switch topics a little bit and move to outside influences of Madison County. You have a new governor in the state of Illinois of the opposite party of the legislature. I'm sure you've met him.
I will meet him next week.
And your impression?
He's got a hard job to do. I'm a Democrat, he's a Republican, but I think with the nature of what the state of Illinois is going through right now, I wish him all the success. It's not a easy job to do. I think both parties, there's enough blame to go to both parties, kept kicking it down the can down the road on quite a few major issues, pensions being one of them. And he's coming in, and he's going to have to make some tough choices. Our biggest concern is we made tough choices through the recession. Madison County, where I have less than 200 employees today than I did when I took office. We don't want him or the legislators to come back and make more cuts to Madison County because we've already done our job. They need to get their act together on the state level.
Define that just a little, and we have like about 2-3 minutes here, but define what you're thinking when you say that.
Okay, for example, they were going after, under the income tax, there's a distribution that goes to local government. Mm-hmm. It happens with municipalities in the county. One of Ronner's things was to take 50% of the local distribution. That would cost Madison County about $3 million, and that would all come out of general fund money. That would mean that I would have to make more layoffs in the county if that would in fact take place. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think what he's doing is throwing out a lot of things to get the discussion going, which I think is probably a good move on his part. But once again, when it used to be when we had businesses to locate here, people would ask you about judicial issues. They would ask you about workers' comp. The number one issue I get brought up now is about the state of Illinois and their financial condition. Mm-hmm. So if you live in Illinois,
that is a big deal, though, isn't it?
It's a big issue, and you have to hope that the Republicans and the Democrats can start working together in Springfield and come up with some good, reliable answers, because it is affecting people moving into our state, into Madison County itself. So I really hope that he is very successful.
Well, I think everybody's hoping that he is successful.
Yes.
Of course, in the state of Illinois, the legislature is overwhelmingly Democrat, both in the House and the Senate.
That is correct.
You now have this Republican governor, which is the exact opposite of Missouri.
That is correct.
In which they have the overwhelming Republican legislature and then a Democrat governor. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming and being with us. Don't be absent so long next time.
Maybe we should do this once a year.
Yeah, I really appreciate hearing from you. I'm sure that folks at home do as well, because you're the guy that is in charge of making sure that their county is running well.
Okay. Well,
and I have to say, my personal opinion, I think you're doing a great job.
Okay. I appreciate it. Thanks
Thanks so much for what you do.
No problem. Thank you.
And to my audience, I've been speaking with Alan Dunstan. He is the chairman of the Board of Madison County Government. Madison County is, well, they're doing pretty well for themselves. You heard what he had to say, that they have no debt, and they're doing pretty well in a state that is flooded with debt. This is going to be uploaded to YouTube. Go and take a look, show it to your friends. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.